r/askreddit. What is an example of pure evil? Child sex trafficking. Chris Watts. Colorado father who strangled his 34-year-old pregnant wife, then killed his 3- and 4-year-old daughters and dumped their bodies in oil tanks. He did this to get rid of obstacles that prevented him from being with his lover. Edit, thanks for all the upvotes and comments. I had no idea there was a Netflix documentary and YouTube videos on this case. I don't think I have the stomach to watch those. I just remember watching the news coverage at the time and feeling sick to my stomach for those poor little girls and their pregnant mother. There's a lot of evil in the world, but it's one of the ones I can't forget. Apparently, lots of women have been sending him love letters to the prison because of how hot he is after he went viral by the Netflix documentary. They are sick in the head too. Some guy in the 80s who worked in a lab injected his infant son with HIV-infected blood so his son would die, a horrible death, and he wouldn't have to pay child support. Edit, 1992, not 80s. Would have still worked if he only injected himself with it. Joseph Fritzl, based in Emstetten, Austria, held his daughter captive for 24 years. During this time he assaulted her, sexually abused and raped her numerous times during her imprisonment inside a concealed area in the cellar of the family home. The abuse resulted in 7 children, 3 remained in captivity with their mother, 1 died shortly after birth and the other 3 raised by him and his wife Rosemary. That one story of those Yakuza boys torturing that one girl. Junko. Something. I'll have to look it up later, but the details are honestly gut-wrenching. Edit, the name is Junko Furuta. Meant no disrespect by not remembering, just genuinely forgot with all the other stories I've read. Just goes to show you how much fucked up shit is really out there. Unit 731. A secret biological and chemical warfare research unit of the Imperial Japanese Army that undertook lethal human experimentation during World War II. Some particularly brutal experiments performed on prisoners included frostbite testing, intentional syphilis infection, live target weapon testing, forced pregnancy from rape, bacteriological experiments on children, vivisection, surgery conducted for experimental purposes on a living organism, in this case, without anesthesia. For anyone with the will to listen to such atrocities, I recommend Jocko Podcast number 133, The Horrors of Unit 731. Edit, a few people below have mentioned a movie based on Unit 731 called Men Behind the Sun. Edit, definition of vivisection. Lawrence Singleton. What he did to 15-year-old Mary Vincent is one of the most fucked up things I've ever heard. He picked her up as she was hitchhiking. When he pulled over to pee, she got out of the van to tie her shoelaces. He whacked her over the head with a shovel. Put her into the back of the van, raped her all night, then cut off both of her arms and threw her off a cliff, 30 feet drop, and drove off. Despite this, she survived. 15-year-old Mary Vincent managed to climb back up the cliff and started walking. Eventually a couple on their honeymoon drove past her and rescued her. This isn't even the tip of the iceberg with Larry Singleton. The podcast, My Favorite Murder, did a brilliant episode on him. He was a cruel bastard and I'm happy he died of brain cancer. The medical experiments done in concentration camps during World War II. The murder of Junko Furuta. Sick pieces of shit. They're still roaming free to this day. Search at your own risk, it's absolutely horrific. Nanjing Massacre, aka the Rape of Nanjing. One of the witnesses, a reverend, estimated that there were 1,000 rapes every night. Tens of thousands of people were murdered. Absolutely horrible. You can read more about it here, but, yeah, it's bad. The people who pressured a 14-year-old Japanese teen to kill herself on stream. What? Please fill me in on this. Essentially a 14-year-old Japanese girl streamed oftenly back in around 2013 called Roro-chan. She did what most did at that time, made music, talked to people stuff and all that, but a lot of evidence also pointed to loneliness and depression from the way she laughed and acted. Her parents were always busy at work so they didn't have time to care about her, and she also had a bad environment at school. The viewers of her stream kept pressuring her to commit suicide and to gain fame off of her death. She eventually did it one night after enough pressure, and thinking that she will die as a legend. After going to the mall with her friend, she went to the roof of 13th-floor apartment complex she lived in and jumped off the building on camera. Police reports later confirmed a body in that location who had the same features as Roro-chan. Only after 3 hours of this, the Japanese government took the video down as well as her streaming account and various other things, leaving only Twitter accounts still standing. There's a song that essentially spreads awareness about it and pays respects to her song. Edit, fixed the age. Edit 2, grammatical errors fixed and add more info. John Venables and Robert Thompson. When they were 10, they abducted 2-year-old James Bulger from a shopping center, took him to some railway tracks, tortured and abused him for hours, then left his body to get cut in half by an oncoming train. Edit, thank you kind Redditors for the awards. It's a sad topic but important to make young children aware of the dangers they can face, even in other children.